come out of hospital with your child, you may well feel isolated. It can be daunting to be suddenly alone and solely responsible for your child's welfare. You've changed your life to fit in hospital visits, treatment plans, meal times and trips to the doctors. You've no doubt formed relationships with the doctors and nurses who've cared for your child. It's all a big change and it will take time to adjust. You'll go through changes as you adjust to this new life. You may feel anxious, scared and unsure. You are not alone and you haven't been deserted. Ring your cancer nurse if you have any concerns.
And those first few months, until you get into a routine of treatment, you have so many questions. I remember Camille's hair didn't fall out immediately, and I phoned the hospital to say, does it mean the chemotherapy's not working? You're so on top of the temperatures because obviously when they're neutropenic, you're taking the temperatures probably every 5 minutes, and I used to be on the phone constantly to the team, and it doesn't matter what their response is. What matters is your child, and I didn't care if I felt I was being a bother. I wanted to speak to the most senior person. I wanted to speak to her consultant all of the time, and I'm very lucky we had a great consultant, and he would often phone me back and reassure me.
Yeah, we were given a list when we left. I mean, we were in there for 9 months. When we left, they did give us a list of, if she was in contact with anyone with chicken pox, if her temperature went up to a certain level, to call them. But I think when we first came out, we were home for 6 weeks, and that 6 weeks were like, I could have phoned them every day, all day, because I'd been in for such a long time. It was like, well, actually, she doesn't look quite right today, I'm going to phone them or whatever. And I have to say they were very good, and I think you do get over that. It's just your first initial, you've had this big blanket around you while you've been in hospital, and when you come out you do feel on your own, I guess, and that's scary. But however many times you phone, there's nothing that takes that scare away, and you do just become used to it.
But never ever feel that you're being a burden, even if they are perhaps making you feel that way. I just think tough luck. I know you might have 20 patients you're trying to deal with, but actually, we're in turmoil. We need to know, we need a definitive answer to this.
Yeah, I think if you've got anything to worry about, I think they must be more than used to it, and I can't imagine that I was the only one that pestered them 24/7. In fact, I know a lot of mums do exactly the same, and I just think a phone call might take a couple of minutes and that's your day. You feel a lot better during the day because you've spoken to somebody. So I would pester whenever you need to, really, to be honest with you.
Adapting to your new life away from the routines of hospital life can be very hard. Social support is very important. If you can, talk to other parents who've already been through treatment. Your child is going to feel very awkward and self-conscious after hospital. They've been away from their friends and familiar surroundings. It's very important to try and maintain friendships.
I think she just thought that she'd be having this treatment and she would come out and she would go back to... I don't think she realised quite how much it would affect her when she came out. I think she thought, right, I'm in hospital, I'm having the operations, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm going to tag with them, and when I come out, everything will then go back to normal.
I know that when children go back to school after a long period of treatment, they're often seen as different, and some pupils can't really believe it's the same person. But if close friends, family are still connected, they'll always feel that sense of belonging, and you'll always have that kind of social network around you when you're back in your home environment, back in your school environment, through periods where the treatment has died down, that help you feel accepted and wanted and valued. That's what young people with cancer need. They need that connection. They need to not feel hugely different. They're going to feel it inside, but they need the people around them to help them feel like they still belong.
My friend was in hospital for a long time, and I think it must have been very difficult for him to go back to school because he looked so different because of all the medication he was taking, and some of the people in his class didn't even recognise him and thought he was a new kid, and I think that must have been so hard for him to go through.
I saw a group of teenagers jeering at my brother with the way he walked. I was just so angry, I just wanted to go up to them and punch them in the stomach.
I think for parents it's often thinking back to other changes that they as a family might have faced, that children themselves may have faced, and think what has helped during those times and what has not helped, and actually thinking about some of the ways that they might be able to build on previous coping strategies, if you like.
I just didn't even realise, and I just treated him like he was a normal kid, because that's what he was to me.
Of course, everyone treats you differently, and you don't really want that. I wouldn't want to be treated differently. I didn't want it, and of course I was, and that made me more unhappy than the whole thing could have, really. I just wanted to go back to my normal day-to-day life.
That makes it 10 times worse when you walk into a room and everyone stops talking immediately, and it's just like, she's normal, you know, she's here, she's just say hello to her, just talk to her, just do something, don't ignore her.
They've now formed new friendships as they've moved through the school and she's not been there. Mikayla found that very hard to cut into that friendship where she hasn't been there for a while, but we had to sit the other children down and talk to them about letting Mikayla back into the friendship circles, so to speak. And they need to remember that she is a very poorly little girl, that she will miss a lot of the fun and the birthday parties and things like that, but you can still be friends with her and still help her when she comes to school for the weeks that she is able to be there.
When thinking about the situations where children go back to school and their social network has changed, their friends have connected with other people who have been around, it's firstly helping your child understand that that's not their fault, and that actually they've needed to keep playing, they've needed to keep having friends while you've been in hospital. Doesn't mean they don't like you anymore, but there may be other kids that you haven't got to know yet. How brilliant. You can make new friends, new connections, people who kind of know you for you right now. That's okay, that's brilliant. It's sad when we have friendships that change, and actually talking through that with your child, like any relationship breakdown, is going to be very important. Helping them not feel blamed. They might feel angry at the cancer, and that's okay. The cancer's kind of changed their friendships, but it won't have happened in all cases. There will still be people who may just be a bit nervous to come over to you again, and it may be that parents can do some play dates or some times where you're going out and having some nice times together outside of school, just to help that reconnection and re-establish those relationships, and help teach children who haven't seen that young person on their journey. They're still the same person. They may look a little bit different, they might behave a little bit different, because naturally you've been around different people in hospital. Being away from your friends will also change you, but not in a negative way. They will have more to know about you. So I think parents are going to be very, very important in the reconnection of friendships, and they need to be very kind of proactive with other parents who might be a bit frightened as well to approach you and your family. So it's mustering up the energy to help that reconnection.
They're like Laura's friends. They're not mine anymore.
It's quite sad that she doesn't keep in touch with her old friends. I mean, I'm guessing it's because Danielle and Laura have got the same friends, and they've kind of gone on to different things, and Danielle hasn't.
I don't want them anyway, because like they're old now.
They do treat her differently. They kind of baby her. Whereas Laura's new friends that she's got from her new school, Danielle's Danielle, they've known her only since she's had treatment, so they know what she's like now, so they don't tend to.
They are nice, but I just think I'm different, so I'm just different.
Many children say just because their experience has been so different to many of their friends, the friends that really do understand them as much as anyone can is the friends who they've had most contact with.
I think that was quite a shock for her when she came out, that actually she was in a different school with a different set of friends, that it's still carrying on. Because I do, like me, I think, we both thought this is what's going to happen, and when we come out everything will be okay.
Neutropenia is the biggest infection risk with the low white blood counts. When the counts are low, you have to be very careful where you can take your child with cancer. You can't go into supermarkets, you can't go to school as normal.
I have to go in isolation because if there's any germs in the classroom.
I think it's natural for parents to become very protective of their children, particularly when they've been in a very vulnerable state, having surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, all of the different treatments that come along. It's natural. You've seen how life can be very fragile, and ultimately we're worried about losing our children. So we would do everything we possibly can from a positive perspective to protect them. But it's about weighing up the positives of wrapping them maybe in a metaphorical cotton wool and not allowing them to access parts of their life that they really need to be back in.
She enjoys school, as every child does enjoy. When she's not neutropenic, she also has the TA then to sit with her and help her, because Mikayla requires naps during the day, and the epilepsy she can trigger at any point. So she has a TA with her round the clock.
My friend had a bad limp and a fat face, but he was still the same person. He still had the same personality. And I remember sitting out in the garden with him, and he was just telling me jokes and making me laugh. And he was still my friend, even though he looked different.
He wasn't one of them. He wasn't an average, normal kid. Well, that made me feel sad, because people didn't invite him to their parties because they didn't really know him much, because they thought, oh no, that kid's just boring. All he can do is sit down in a wheelchair.
I just think that now she accepts everything that she's got and she lives life, gets on with it, doesn't care about what people think, doesn't care about going to the hospital, doesn't care what they do to her at the hospital, because nothing can be as bad as what they did before. And does generally, I think, is quite happy in herself, and like I say, she doesn't care about what anyone thinks anymore.
There are some good things, like you don't get as much homework or whatever, but mostly it is rather frustrating.
They did suggest Mikayla would need a special needs school because she reads Braille now. She's got very little vision left.
I have to read Braille because if my eyesight completely goes, then I'm going to have to read Braille. Okay. All it is little dots, and I've got a little song to it. Reading Braille is very important. So, slide in, slide out. What can you read? Back.
Talking with lots of people within the school network, we decided as a group that she'll cope still in mainstream, and she's happier with that, so that way she didn't have to leave her friends once again.
They know everything. That if I'm not at school, then that means that they know that I'm in hospital.
We let all of the class friends know pretty much how Mikayla's doing, so their anxiety doesn't have an issue, and then Mikayla's anxiety for when she returns school, that she doesn't have to ask so many questions.
Thinking about preparing children for going back to school, I think that's going to be a very tricky time for most. The fears of going back to school, the normal anxieties about returning to school, even after the summer holidays. So we're thinking about a very magnified, probably, level of anxiety for some children, returning after you've been off for maybe months at a time. So it's going to be very important to sit down with your child and think about what year they're going back into. It might be useful to do a familiarisation visit with the school, to get the school engaged, to get the school ready as well. They are going to need to take responsibility in helping your child reintegrate into the school setting. The Royal Marsden have done an excellent booklet which is designed for schools in helping children reintegrate after treatment and after a cancer diagnosis.
I definitely became more obsessive about her, and it was like, I don't know, I still don't, to be honest, very often like going out without Danielle, and I need to know who's going to be looking after her, and it's almost like nobody else is capable, and I know they are, of looking after Danielle. So yeah, that you do become definitely a bit more possessive over them, definitely.
It's just like Mum and Dad were more protective over me.
They treat you a little weirdly at first. But, you know, they still want to be your friend like normal again. So they just don't want to take any chances, because obviously, you know, it's a big thing. They don't want to do or say the wrong thing, because they don't want to get in trouble. And, you know, so, but eventually they do calm down about the whole thing, or they keep it to themselves, I don't know which. But the teachers, I would say, were a little more concerned about the whole thing.
I think some of the children felt scared of Mikayla because she had no hair, because she had wires, because she was vomiting within the classroom, not because she's poorly, because she's had chemotherapy. And it's making her friends aware, and their parents, that having cancer, you can't catch it through touching them.
I went into the classroom, and in year 1 classroom, I stood up just right in the middle of the floor, like there, and then I, like there where you are now, and then I took off my wig and said, look, I'm bald, alright? I'm bald because of my chemo. I'm bald, so I wanted to tell you this now. I didn't want to tell you this later. And then everybody just looked at me and just faced their work again. And I put my wig back on.
Don't stare at the people that have been diagnosed with cancer. Maybe the hair has fallen out or something. Don't stare and don't think that sort of they're not one of you. Of course they're one of you. They're still human. So just because they're bald does not mean that they're not really friendly or they can't be invited to a party. Still invite these people to parties, even if they can't maybe do it. It'd be nice to just sort of let them know that you do like them.
Checking in with your child when they've been in school. You know, how was everybody with you today? Did anyone ask you any questions that you didn't like so much or made you feel a bit worried or upset? Day by day, just working through with your child what's coming up, because we can't predict how people are going to react to them. We can try and temper that by helping the school keep an eye on your child, helping their friends know they're coming back, making sure they feel welcomed and ready to get back into the school environment, helping them get back in their uniform, maybe practicing that at home even the week before. What does it feel like, that itchy jumper, having that back on? Yes, you're going to have to keep your blazer on even if you're feeling hot. Having those debates and getting ready for the normality of school is going to be important.
And I'm not scared to tell people that she has cancer. She's not to be hidden away, she's to be shown. To, like any other child, hug her, love her, kiss her, show other children how brave she is, show other mums and dads how brave she is, and be happy.
As time passes, most families find that their fear becomes less intense, and although it will probably never completely go, it does become easier to live with. If you would like further information on any matters raised in this film, please go to www.jossearchlight.org.uk.
Be bold, be proud.
High five! Yay!